It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They once hailed him as a titan of the music industry, the mastermind behind countless careers, the ultimate architect of hip-hop royalty. But yesterday, that towering legacy came crashing down as Cassie Ventura took the witness stand. The courtroom froze as Diddy's expression drained of color, his carefully built reputation unraveling in real time. With chilling calm, his former partner laid bare allegations so shocking that even veteran courtroom journalists sat in stunned silence. The man who had commanded an entire empire was powerless in that moment, forced to listen as Cassie exposed every dark detail of what she claimed took place behind closed doors.
She walked in there, Rachel. She had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs moved through the music world as though he owned every inch of it, and in many ways he did. From the ground up, he built Bad Boy Records, transformed unknown talents into global icons, and expanded his empire into fashion, liquor, and media. On paper, Diddy embodied the perfect blueprint of hip-hop success, the mogul who mastered the art of turning music into money. But according to what's now emerging in court, that polished image was masking something far darker. While glossy magazines celebrated his business acumen, while crowds screamed at his concerts, while cameras captured his dazzling red carpet confidence, Cassie Ventura was allegedly enduring an entirely different reality behind closed doors. The contrast left everyone in court stunned. Here was a man who projected the ultimate professionalism, custom-tailored suits, flawless grooming, rehearsed charm in every interview. Yet the accusations told of someone the public wouldn't even recognize, someone disturbingly different away from the spotlight. On day 2, Diddy strode into the courthouse the way he's walked into boardrooms, flanked by an army of top-dollar attorneys, flashing the familiar grin, nodding coolly to onlookers. To the casual observer, he appeared unshaken, as though this were just another high-stakes meeting. That illusion crumbled fast. Multiple witnesses described the stunning transformation. Within 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony, the swagger was gone. The man who once controlled billion-dollar contracts now sat visibly rattled. His trademark composure gave way to restless fidgeting as Cassie began recounting specific moments from their relationship. Diddy's legal team sprang into action, objecting repeatedly, at times seeming almost frantic to cut her off. But the courtroom was witnessing something they never expected. The man who built careers and dictated deals couldn't even command his own composure. Observers said Diddy couldn't sit still. His skin paled, as if the very air had been sucked from the room. He tugged at his tie, adjusted his cufflinks, and finally just clenched and unclenched his hands. Reporters caught him scribbling notes at a furious pace and shoving them toward his lawyers, until one even motioned for him to slow down. One courtroom reporter compared it to watching someone realize, for the first time, that they were no longer in control of the narrative. Another described Diddy as looking physically sick, while Cassie calmly recounted their history. A third observer noted Diddy shutting his eyes multiple times, as if trying to block out her words. And this was only the start. As Cassie's testimony stretched through the afternoon, the world inside that courtroom was about to understand why Diddy's confident facade had shattered. What Cassie alleged next would detonate like a bomb across the entire music industry and threaten to reduce Diddy's carefully built empire to rubble. The man who had always orchestrated the narrative was now trapped in a story he couldn't edit, spin, or control.
At some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yet, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table.
Cassie Ventura stepped up to the witness stand. You could have heard a pin drop in that tense courtroom. Everyone knew this was the moment, but no one, not even Diddy's formidable legal team, was braced for what was about to unfold. After years of silence and suppressed pain, Cassie finally had her opportunity to speak. And she did, with devastating precision. She began quietly, almost disarmingly, which only amplified the impact of what followed. Cassie recounted first meeting Diddy at just 19 years old. He was already a powerhouse in the music world, a multimillionaire with global influence, while she was a young model hoping to break into the industry. From the very beginning, Cassie said, the imbalance of power was undeniable. And, according to her, Diddy used that power deliberately. Her testimony unfolded slowly, like a psychological thriller where the dread builds with every detail. First came the alleged controlling behaviors, how he supposedly demanded constant updates on her whereabouts, how he would unexpectedly show up if she was out socializing. Then she described the professional manipulation, claims that he threatened to shelve her music projects if she didn't comply with his wishes, accusations that he sabotaged potential collaborations out of jealousy or control. The revelations only got darker. According to court transcripts, Cassie testified that Diddy had allegedly installed tracking software on her phone. She claimed, He would call her within minutes of arriving at any location, fully aware of where she was. Over time, she said, he methodically isolated her from friends and mentors who might have encouraged her to leave, leaving her completely dependent on him. The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric. The judge had to call for order 3 separate times as Diddy's frustration boiled over. He reportedly shook his head, whispered angrily to his attorneys, and made visible facial expressions, all of which the jury observed closely. Every time the judge reprimanded him, Diddy would gather himself for a few minutes only to lose control again. It was, as one observer put it, like watching a man used to absolute control slowly realize he had none in that room. Then came the game-changing moment. Cassie pulled out her phone and passed it to her attorney. On a large screen, messages and emails were displayed for all to see. Diddy's face reportedly froze in disbelief. It appeared he had no idea she had kept these damning records. The messages allegedly showed him apologizing for violent behavior, issuing veiled threats to sabotage her career if she spoke out, and contradicting many of the statements his publicists had released over the years. But that, according to Cassie, was just the beginning. She then recounted a series of alleged physical attacks. The courtroom fell silent as she described being slammed against walls during arguments. One horrifying account involved her allegedly being pushed down a staircase at a Miami rental property. The most chilling accusation came when Cassie described multiple incidents where Diddy allegedly strangled her to the point where she almost lost consciousness, only stopping when her body went limp. The jury's reaction was unmistakable. One older female juror was seen wiping away tears. A male juror reportedly averted his gaze, unable to look at Diddy as the disturbing details were laid bare. Even the most hardened reporters present admitted they had not anticipated the brutal specificity of Cassie's testimony. And all of it was merely the lead-up to what would become the defining moment of the trial, the hotel incident that would send this entire case into overdrive.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I wasn't going to make it out alive that night, Cassie said, her voice so faint that the packed courtroom strained to hear. She was recounting an incident at the Four Seasons Hotel, a dark chapter that had remained hidden from tabloids, blogs, and even industry insiders until now. Cassie explained that she had kept the horrifying memory locked away for years, paralyzed by fear. Fear of losing her career, fear for her personal safety, and fear that no one would dare believe her over someone as untouchable as Diddy. But on that day, seated firmly in the witness chair, she was done protecting secrets. According to her account, what began as an ordinary industry after-party spiraled into terror. Cassie testified that Diddy became livid after seeing her talking to another executive. She described how his warm public demeanor vanished in an instant, how he gripped her arm so tightly it left deep bruises, and how he hissed threats in her ear while keeping up appearances for the partygoers around them. The courtroom gasped as Cassie described the next moments. She claimed Diddy forcibly dragged her across the hotel lobby toward the elevators. Tearfully, she tried to break free, causing enough of a scene that hotel security stepped in, only to back away once they recognized who Diddy was. "He didn't even ask if I was okay," Cassie told the stunned court. Then came the most damning evidence yet. Her lawyer introduced a series of grainy, haunting images Cassie had taken herself the morning after. Bruises darkening her arms, a split and swollen lip, angry red marks around her neck. These weren't staged or studio-lit photos. They were shaky, taken in a hotel bathroom mirror, and that rawness only amplified the horror. Cassie explained she had taken the photos out of sheer desperation, knowing that without proof, she might never be believed. Diddy's legal team immediately scrambled to suppress the images. They objected to their admissibility, questioned their origin, and argued they should have been presented earlier. One by one, the judge shot down every attempt. As the images lit up the courtroom screens, the reaction from the jury was unforgettable. One female juror visibly gasped and covered her mouth. Two male jurors stared away, unwilling to look. A juror, seated in the back row, was seen scribbling notes at a frantic pace, her hands trembling. This was the landmine no one had anticipated. The incident had never been referenced in prior filings or interviews. Diddy's legal team had no prepared strategy, and their panic was evident to everyone watching. Cassie's testimony only grew more graphic. She accused Diddy of hurling a champagne bottle at her, narrowly missing her head as it smashed into the wall. She claimed he went on a violent rampage, shattering a lamp, overturning furniture, and punching a hole straight through the bathroom door. The most terrifying allegation came last. Cassie said Diddy held her captive inside that hotel room for over 48 hours, confiscating her phone and threatening her with consequences if she tried to escape or call for help. As Cassie finished reliving that harrowing ordeal, every eye in the courtroom turned toward Diddy. His expression at that moment, witnesses would later say, became the defining image of not just the trial, but perhaps the turning point of his entire career.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual, it may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now, but I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down.
It was the moment that left the entire courtroom stunned. The unthinkable happened. Diddy, the man known for his icy composure and media mastery, completely unraveled in plain sight. This was the same mogul who had spent decades crafting a flawless public persona. The smooth-talking businessman, the unflappable deal-maker, the icon who never lost control. But as Cassie's testimony hit its most explosive revelations, the mask began to slip, and then it shattered completely. Reporters who had covered countless celebrity scandals confessed they had never seen anything like it. The confident figure who strode into court that morning was now visibly shaken, shrinking deeper into his chair as each damning accusation landed. Sources near the defense table whispered that Diddy's lead attorney repeatedly placed a reassuring hand on his arm, trying to steady him. At one point, the lawyer reportedly slid him a note that simply read, "Stay calm." But the damage had already been done. The breaking point came when Cassie detailed an alleged incident at Diddy's Hampton estate. As she spoke, Diddy reportedly slammed his hand on the table so hard the sound echoed throughout the courtroom. The judge immediately halted the proceedings. "Mr. Combs, control yourself or I will have you removed," the judge sternly warned. Observers later said it appeared Diddy barely stopped himself from being ejected from his own trial. Throughout Cassie's testimony, he was seen mouthing, "That's not true," repeatedly after particularly damaging claims, seemingly forgetting that the jury was watching his every move. As the tension peaked, Cassie dropped the bombshell. She had secretly recorded audio evidence of alleged threats Diddy made against her and her family. When the tape played in court, Diddy lost it. He shot up from his chair and yelled directly at Cassie, "You know that's not what happened!" His legal team physically restrained him, pulling him back down as he struggled to shout over the recording. It reportedly took 3 lawyers to subdue him. The judge declared an emergency recess, but the scene had already sealed its place in courtroom history. The mogul who had built his career on being untouchable had just shown the world how vulnerable he truly was. As Diddy was escorted out, onlookers noted he looked nothing like the powerhouse who had entered earlier. His image had collapsed in front of the cameras and reporters, but the final blow was still to come. Cassie calmly revealed she had spent years quietly collecting proof of what she claimed occurred. Text messages, emails, photos, all secured, in multiple places where Diddy could never find or erase them. The courtroom held its breath as Cassie revealed messages from fellow celebrities who had allegedly witnessed Diddy's behavior firsthand. These weren't distant industry acquaintances. They were insiders, friends, longtime collaborators. One text from a famous rapper after an after-party read, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can crash at my place if you need to." A major pop star had written, "I've known him for 15 years and I've never seen him act like that. This isn't normal. Call me, please. The most damning came from a veteran producer. I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe. Diddy's defense team immediately objected, arguing the messages were hearsay and should have been submitted earlier. The judge privately reviewed them and ruled, they are highly relevant to this case. As the texts projected on the screens, Diddy reportedly buried his head in his hands. Then came the worst revelation. Diddy's own texts. Screenshots showed alleged apologies. Sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again. Another read. Whatever you want to make this right. Car, apartment, anything. Even more damning, messages proposing hush money offers. My lawyer can draw up papers tomorrow. $2 million clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years. As the evidence mounted, something chilling happened. Members of Diddy's entourage, who had confidently entered with him that morning, quietly got up and slipped out one by one. By the end of the testimony, he sat alone at the table, just Diddy and his stunned legal team. The empire he had spent decades constructing now seemed to be collapsing in real time. Cassie Ventura hadn't just told her story, she may have rewritten Diddy's legacy. The question now wasn't whether Diddy could survive the trial. It was whether his public image could ever recover from the devastating truth laid bare in that courtroom.